Ever wonder how we actually make sense of the world around us? Or, even more, how we understand what's going on inside us, our thoughts, feelings, why we click with some people and just not others.
It's a fundamental puzzle,
Mhm.
really. And ancient wisdom offers some surprisingly precise ways to think about it.
Absolutely.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into this concept of elements, or dhatus, from some foundational ancient texts. And these aren't like, the periodic table element.
Right, not chemical elements.
No. Think of them more as fundamental classifications of reality. They shape pretty much everything, how we perceive things, our inclinations, even who we end up hanging out with.
So our mission here is to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding this really profound framework.
Yeah, and you'll find insights that might seem ancient, but are, frankly, shockingly relevant to daily life.
Okay, let's jump in. So dhatus, these elements. The sources start with something called dhātu, the diversity of elements. When the texts talk about these, what's the first layer we need to grasp?
Well, the first thing they zoom in on is really the basic architecture of our sensory experience.
Yeah.
It's like your perception isn't just one big thing, it's built.
Built how?
The first set of elements are literally the components how we perceive anything. It's usually presented as a trio. You've got an internal sense base, its external object, and then the consciousness that pops up when they connect.
Okay, walk us through an example, maybe like sight.
Sure, sight's a good one. So you have your eye element. That's the internal base, your physical eye and its capacity. Then there's the visible form element. That's the external thing, whatever you're looking at. And the moment those two connect, bam, you get eye consciousness. And this exact pattern, this trio, it holds for hearing, smelling, tasting, touch.
And the mind, too?
And the mind, too, yeah. The mind element, mental phenomena or thoughts as the object, and mind consciousness. Each sense door creates its own specific type of consciousness.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. How do these elements, these interactions, lead to what we call contact? Because just seeing isn't passive, is it? There's an engagement.
Exactly, it's not passive. The texts show a very clear, direct causal link. Diversity of elements gives rise to diversity of contact. It's causal.
So the eye element meeting the form.
Leading to eye consciousness, that process is what creates eye contact. Same for ear contact, nose contact, you name it, right up to mind contact, which is our interaction with thoughts, ideas, memories.
And the flow is crucial here, you said.
Very crucial. It's stressed that it's one way. Elements give rise to contact. Contact doesn't somehow create the elements.
Got it. And the chain keeps going, right?
Right.
From contact, we get to something even more internal feeling. This feels like it's mapping our whole inner process.
It really is. The sequence just continues logically. Diversity of contact gives rise to diversity of feeling.
Ah, okay.
So that eye contact you just had, it immediately gives rise to a feeling associated with it, pleasant, maybe unpleasant, maybe just neutral. Feeling born of eye contact.
And same for the mind.
Same for the mind. Mind contact leads to feeling born of mind contact. And again, critically, it's one way. Feeling doesn't cause the contact. Contact doesn't cause the original elements. Each step arises because of the one before it, dependent arising.
So this maps out basic sensation, but it seems like the texts take it much further. There's a longer chain suggested, isn't there? Taking us from just seeing something all the way to, like, wanting it and going after it.
Absolutely. This is where you see the whole trajectory of how we engage with the world. It's like a cascade.
Yeah.
Elements give rise to perception.
Okay.
Perception gives rise to thought or intention. Thought gives rise to desire. Desire to feverishness or agitation. And that agitation leads to seeking or searching.
Wow, okay. Can we use the sight example again?
Yeah, let's do that. So the visible form element leads to the perception of form. That perception might then spark an intention about it. Maybe that intention grows into desire for the form. That desire can then create a kind of restlessness and agitation. And that agitation is what finally drives the seeking of that form. And this whole pattern applies across all senses and mental objects too.
And there's one more step mentioned, right? Tying it all off.
Yes. The final link often mentioned is that seeking leads to gain or acquisition. Finding or getting what you sought.
So understanding this whole chain, it means everything we experience, want, chase after, and get. It traces back to these initial elements.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's presented as this continuous dependent flow, shaping our reality from moment to moment, starting from the most basic interactions.
Okay, so after laying out these, let's call them sensory and cognitive elements, the sources seem to shift gears a bit. They introduce a different set, these 7 elements. It feels like stepping into a deeper level, almost more abstract. What are these about?
Yeah, they are definitely more subtle. They move beyond that immediate sense object consciousness triad into more advanced conceptual or even meditative states.
Like what?
Well, the list includes things like the splendor or light element, the beauty element, then states related to meditative absorptions like the infinitude of space element, infinitude of consciousness, nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception, and finally the cessation of perception and feeling element.
Wow, okay. Quite a list.
It is, but the key point here isn't just memorizing them. It's that even these highly refined, abstract states are seen as arising dependently. They aren't just random or uncaused.
So they depend on something else, too.
Exactly. For instance, the light element is said to depend on the prior experience or concept of darkness. The infinitude of space element arises in dependence on moving beyond the perception of physical form or matter. Each one has its prerequisite, its condition. It reinforces that everything arises dependently.
What's really striking, though, is how these abstract elements, and the earlier ones, too, are then connected so directly to our everyday thoughts and even who we hang out with. It's like our inner states and our social lives are linked by these elements.
This is one of the most profound insights, I think. It's captured in the principle often translated as like attracts like, or more literally from the text, beings associate and come together by way of their elements or dispositions.
So our internal element or leaning draws us to similar people.
Precisely. The text state it quite plainly. People with, say, inferior inclinations naturally gravitate towards inferior ones, and those with wholesome inclinations associate with wholesome ones.
Ah.
And it's not just a casual observation. They emphasize this holds true across time, past, present, and future. It's presented as a fundamental dynamic of how beings interact.
The sources give some really vivid examples of this, don't they? Especially around thoughts, vitakko, I think you called them, how they lead to consequences. There's that punchy analogy, too.
They really do.
Hmm.
Thoughts, vitakko, are explained as always arising with a cause, not randomly. So, take an unwholesome thought pattern. Maybe it stems from a desire element, right?
Okay.
That leads to desire perception, then desire intention, which fuels the desire itself. This then stirs up that feverishness or agitation we talked about, and finally, active seeking.
And the outcome.
For someone who's, let's say, uninstructed in this way of seeing things, acting on this chain leads down a path of suffering, vexation, despair in this life, and, well, a difficult future destination is often mentioned too.
And the analogy, the torch.
Ah, yes. It's like leaving a burning torch in dry grass. It's just bound to cause harm, to spread fire. A really potent image. But then you have the flip side, the wholesome chain. Maybe it starts with a renunciation element.
Okay, the opposite of desire.
Exactly. So that leads to renunciation perception, renunciation intention, and so on. An instructed person, a wise person acting on this path, finds happiness, finds peace, no vexation, and moves toward a genuinely good destination.
And the analogy there.
It's extinguishing that burning torch in the dry grass, preventing the harm before it starts. It shows so clearly how these foundational mental elements aren't just internal states, they actively shape our actions and their consequences.
It really does sound like our fundamental elements or dispositions profoundly shape our reality, not just internally, but who we are, how we're seen, who we connect with. How does this attracts idea play out in terms of our views, our character?
It gets even more ingrained. The texts explain the different levels, elements that they talk about, inferior, middling, and superior elements, give rise to corresponding levels of everything. Your perception, your core views, your thoughts, intentions, aspirations, your resolve, even the kind of person you are and how you speak.
Wow.
It suggests even your basic origination, your inherent quality, is tied to these elemental dispositions. And significantly, they point to an ignorance element as a great element that specifically gives rise to wrong views. So our core disposition really sets the stage.
Everything else.
Pretty much. And to make the like attracts totally concrete, they give very down-to-earth examples.
Yeah.
Think about it. Doesn't it often seem true? The faithless hang out with the faithless.
Yeah, you see that.
The shameless find other shameless people. The unlearned, the lazy, the foolish, they tend to associate with similar folks. It's an observable pattern.
And the positive side, too.
Absolutely. The faithful seek out the faithful. The conscientious, those with integrity, connect with others like them. The learned find the learned, the energetic find the energetic, the wise find the wise. And the analogies they use for this are just incredibly vivid. For the unwholesome connections, it's compared to filth associating with filth, like dung mixing with dung, or urine with urine.
Oof. Yeah, that's memorable.
It's meant to be.
Yep.
And for the wholesome side, it's Wholesome substances with wholesome substances, like pure milk blending with pure milk, or ghee with ghee, honey with honey. These images really drive home that it's these fundamental qualities, these elements, that are the real basis of association.
And didn't the sources even name names, like famous disciples?
They did, yeah, grounding it in specific people. They mentioned Sariputta, known for wisdom, associating with the wise. Moggallana, known for psychic powers, with others cultivating those abilities.
Right.
Kassapa, known for ascetic practices, with other ascetics. And on the other side, Devadatta, infamous for his malice, associating with other malicious people. It shows the principle applies across different kinds of qualities.
So it's not just personality, but ethics practice.
Exactly. It extends directly to moral conduct and spiritual paths.
Mm-hmm.
Immoral people associate with immoral people. Those who adhere to ethical precepts, not harming, not stealing, not lying, they naturally gravitate towards others who share those values.
Makes sense.
And it even applies to the path itself. Those on a wrong path, defined by things like wrong view, wrong intention, wrong effort, tend to associate with others on that same misguided path.
And the opposite.
And just as strongly, those on the right path, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, and so on, naturally associate with others walking that path. Your core elements are constantly sorting you, guiding your connections.
Okay, we've journeyed through sensory elements, cognitive chains, subtle states, and this powerful like attracts like principle. Now let's zoom out again to perhaps the most commonly known elements, the four great elements, the physical ones.
Yes, the Mahabhutas. These are the absolute fundamentals of material reality in this system. You have the earth element representing solidity, resistance, the water element cohesion, fluidity, the fire element heat, energy, transformation, and the wind element motion, expansion, pressure.
The building blocks of the physical world.
Essentially, yes. But what's really crucial, according to these texts, isn't just knowing what they are, but understanding a specific three-part framework for relating to them.
Okay, which is?
It's understanding their gratification, their danger, and their escape.
Gratification, danger, escape.
Right. Think of gratification, asado, as the pleasure, the happiness, the joy that arises independence on each element. The comfort of solidity, the refreshment of water, the warmth of fire, the feeling of movement. There's definitely pleasure there.
Sure, that makes sense.
Then there's the danger, Odinavo. This refers to their inherent impermanence, the fact that they are ultimately unsatisfactory, constantly changing, and subject to arising and passing away. That solidity crumbles, water evaporates, fire dies, wind ceases. There's an inherent instability and potential for suffering.
The downside, basically.
Exactly. And finally, the escape, serene. This is the path to freedom from being bound by them. It involves understanding the gratification and danger so thoroughly that you can subdue and ultimately abandon desire and lust for those elements. It's about non-clinging.
That framework, gratification, danger, escape, seems really central. The texts apparently emphasize it hugely.
Hugely. In fact, the Buddha is recorded as saying he didn't claim full enlightenment until he had thoroughly understood these three aspects: gratification, danger, escape for all four great elements directly and completely.
Wow, that's how important it is.
Yes. It's this complete understanding that led to, as the text put it, unshakable liberation of mind, and the certainty that rebirth was ended. It shows this isn't just a philosophical exercise. It's the key to liberation itself. And why is it so critical? The texts explain it very logically. If there were no gratification, no pleasure associated with these elements, beings wouldn't get hooked on them in the first place.
Right. We wouldn't be infatuated.
Exactly. If there were no inherent danger, no downside, no suffering embedded in them, beings would never feel the need to become dispassionate or look for a way out.
Would just stay comfortable.
We'd just stay comfortable, yeah. And if there were no actual escape, no path to release, then even seeing the danger wouldn't help. We'd be trapped. So it's the full understanding of all three that makes liberation possible. Seeing the hook, seeing the problem with the hook, and seeing how to unhook yourself.
I see. And the texts connect this directly to happiness and suffering.
They do. They point out that these elements contain both happiness and suffering. We get stuck, we get infatuated because of the happiness part. But it's precisely because of the suffering part, the danger, that we can become dispassionate and find release.
So is it as simple as delighting in these elements means delighting in suffering, and letting go means freedom?
That's almost a direct quote from some texts, yes. Delighting in an element means delighting in suffering. And the flip side, not delighting in an element means not delighting in suffering. And through that non-delight, one is freed. It's about where you place your engagement, your craving.
And it goes even deeper, connecting their arising and ceasing to suffering itself.
It does. Another text explains that the arising, the persistence, the manifestation, the very appearance of these elements in our experience is the arising of suffering, the persistence of diseases, the appearance of aging and death.
That's intense.
It is. But the hopeful part is the reverse. Their cessation, their quieting, their disappearance from our field of clinging. That is, the cessation of suffering, the quieting of diseases, the end of aging and death in the ultimate sense. And this is why, ultimately, the texts conclude that true spiritual practitioners, whether they call themselves Samaikas or Brahmanyas, are only considered genuinely accomplished if they have fully understood this whole picture. The gratification, the danger, the escape, and the arising and cessation of these four fundamental elements. That understanding is the realization of the spiritual goal here and now.
Wow. Okay, what a comprehensive journey we've taken today. We really started at the micro level, didn't we? The building blocks of sensing and perceiving.
Yeah, how eye meets form, ear meets sound, and how that cascades into contact, feeling, perception, thought, desire.
All the way to seeking and getting. Then we touched on this more subtle, abstract elements of consciousness.
Before diving into that really powerful principle of like attracts like, how our inner dispositions, our elements, literally shape our social world, our relationships, and the consequences that follow.
Yeah, that was striking. And finally, we zoomed right out to the bedrock of physical reality, the four great elements.
Earth, water, fire, wind, and that crucial framework of understanding their gratification, their inherent danger, and the liberating path of escape through non-clinging.
It really feels like these ancient ideas about elements provide such a potent, interconnected way to understand, well, everything. The world outside, our minds inside, and how the two constantly interact.
It truly is a holistic framework. It offers tools for self-awareness, for understanding our conditioning, and maybe even for navigating our relationships and choices more wisely.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. As you go about your day, just notice that principle like attracts like. How deeply does it seem to operate in your own life? Think about your friends, maybe your colleagues, even the habits you gravitate towards. What kinds of elements, what qualities, what dispositions are you actively cultivating within yourself? And following that thread, what kinds of associations, what experiences, maybe even what kind of future are those elements naturally drawing you towards, or perhaps pulling you away from?
Something to really reflect on.